is Aussie Cadet Edwards. Today I'll be walking through 10 tips and tricks for anyone that is new to the Australian Army Cadets. Number one is tape. So I'll show you what mine looks like, but tape is very important to put on your webbing and on your pack to get rid of all the sort of loose bits hanging off so that they don't get caught on anything when you go and exercise, and also makes it look a lot neater, and it should help fit it to your size. In terms of what kind of tape, I would recommend electrical tape because it's best suited for what we do at cadets, and it stays onto your kit and webbing and pack really, really well. So this is my webbing. Now at the back you can see that I haven't taped these up, and these are loose and they hang low, so it's very bad for when you're outfield and your uniform looks really untidy. Moving towards the front of the webbing, you can see I've done these ones up, so on the harness, so they look nice and neat and they don't get caught on anything. But this one came loose, so I'll fix that up. But you can see the kind of tape I'm using. I'm using electrical tape, which is nice and keeps it all tidy. This is my pack. So you can see again here I need to do these ones up with tape, which will sort of make it a little bit nicer and look really good. And then I also need to adjust this to my size and then tape that. So number two, I'd recommend camouflaging your kit. So what you can use for that is, some people tend to use their old uniform, so our DPCU uniform, which we're starting to phase out. You can, if you get permission, cut that up and use it to camouflage onto your kit. Other people tend to use scrim net, and some people use cam net, which I'll show you in a minute. Here's an example of an AMCU bush hat with no camouflage on it. This is given to you once you become a cadet, and you can camouflage it very easily. So what you do is you get your scrim or cam net and you weave it in and out of these loops, and then tie it off with hoochie cord to make it look all nice and firm. I should also note it's very important, the reason that we camouflage these hats is so that your shape and your figure is broken up in the field so it doesn't look like a hat. The whole point is to break up your shape and make it look like something else. So I've got two examples here. On the left is an M1 helmet. Obviously, cadets, we don't use helmets, we use bush hats, but you can see the scrim net put through it, and what that does is it breaks up the shape and the figure of the helmet so that it is less detectable out in the field. And then on the right is just some scrim net, which I found online, so you can buy that scrim net online somewhere if you want some, or as I said before, you can cut up your, with permission obviously, you can cut up your old uniform and use that as scrim net, but make sure you get permission to do that first. Number three is backups. So what I say when I mean backups is stuff like having a spare rain jacket, or having a sewing kit. A sewing kit is very important for when you're outfield, so I'll show you what my backups look like now. So these are some things that or some spare things that I bring. So first of all, I bring a notebook. This one I've just got some notes from Lance Corporal course, but it's always good to have a spare notebook with you. Next, I've got an emergency blanket. I sort of just pop this in my first aid kit, but it is a very important tool to have with you for emergencies. Next is a sewing kit, so if a button comes off your uniform or if your hoochie tears, you can do some quick temporary repairs with that. Another really important one is always bring pens, more pens than you think you need, because sometimes your pen might clog up or stop working, or you have to lend someone else a pen. So very important thing to bring with you. Next, make sure you bring lots of pegs. I personally bring 6 to 8 pegs, depending on what happens, because if it's windy, you really want to make sure that your hoochie is fastened down nicely. And next, might seem a bit silly, but I personally bring a spare hoochie if I have room. This is a nice lightweight version and there's no heavy material in there, but this is if I have room. Usually I won't. As an example, I said with my hoochie, this is a piece of my hoochie, which I had when I was camping. It was 70km/h winds. I had every single one of these loops pegged in, but despite that, it still managed to rip the hoochie, the corner clean off. So yeah, that's why I bring a spare hoochie with me personally. So this fourth one is always ask questions. So even if it's your TCMIAC orders, if you're being given them, and even if you're writing them down, make sure you ask if you have questions at the end, because sometimes they do go through them really quickly. And also it helps you for when you have your test of objectives, when they start to ask you what was said, it will help if you ask questions. And another really important thing about asking questions is your NCOs will notice that you're asking questions, and that means that you're engaged with the lesson and they really will appreciate it. So number 5, change your socks. It is very important that you're changing your socks when you're outfield, which I'll show you now. So these are the socks that you issued at cadets. Recruits are issued them as well, so whenever you get your boots, you'll get your socks. You usually get 2 pairs, but it's very important, or I find it very important, to always have more than you need. So whenever I go outfield, say if it's a 3-day exercise, I'll bring 4 pairs of socks, because you never know, maybe one day it will rain, or maybe one day you have to, your feet get wet, and then you have a spare pair of socks that you can use. If you don't change your socks, your feet can get very smelly, and then you can also develop some diseases like tinea that you really don't want, especially outfield. So number 6 is, should I buy my own stuff? This is quite a common question that you get at cadets, but I would recommend you only buy the stuff that you need to. For example, I bought a few more pairs of socks because they only give you 2 pairs, so I bought about 3 more pairs. It wasn't that much. But most of the time, no, you're not really going to need to buy your own stuff. I'll show you some stuff that I did buy with my own money, but for most case, you don't need to buy your own stuff. So here are some items that I got, that I bought myself. So first I got a Gerber knife, so this is a really small one. You're allowed to have knives at cadets as long as they're under 5 centimeters. So this one I got for about $5 at an outdoor store. Really good for cutting your hoochie cord, all that sort of stuff. I also got some gloves. These are not the ones I got, I don't have the ones that I bought, but I would recommend getting some gloves. Don't get fingerless gloves, you want ones with 4-finger gloves, so when it gets nice and cold on bivs, you can put those on to stay warm. They do issue you gloves, I don't have mine with me, but they're sort of like these dark green gloves that would keep your hands warm. As I said, I bought about 3 pairs of these socks, just, you know, a redundancy to have with you. Another really important thing that I found important was to get sort of a bladder. So this is just a normal water bladder with, I think it's probably a 5-litre or 3-litre bladder you've got in the back. So usually when you're going out on biv, you'll leave your backpack or your pack inside of your hoochie if you decide to keep your locations up. And then, you know, if you're just taking your webbing, this is a good thing to have in the back, so you can always have some water with you. And then you have obviously that tube which you drink out of from there. And the final thing that I have is, obviously I already showed you this, but notebooks, obviously you don't get given them. They're like $1 or $2 from wherever you get them. These ones are some waterproof ones I got, so if I accidentally leave it out or if it's in the rain, it won't get wet. But normal notebooks, not very expensive, probably $1 or $2. So knives and tools. So I'll show you the knives that I have. I already showed you that Gerber one, and then also some tools that I have with me for when I go outfield. So these are some tools I've got. So I would really recommend bringing a watch with you. Most importantly, one that has an alarm. You can set an alarm feature. So if you have picket or anything like that, you can set that alarm and wake up. I don't have a lighter with me, but I would take either a lighter or a ferro rod with me so I can make flames. So if I need to, I mean, a lighter would be more preferable, but if I need to burn some stuff off my uniform, like loose threads, you can do that. You never know when that might come in handy. I did find the gloves from before, so these are the gloves you get issued once you're a cadet, or once you, depends for some units, but you get these sort of gloves. They're some nice gloves that keep your hands nice and warm. On accident, I think ruined, yeah, so you see my thumbs ripped there, but these gloves are really good and they'll keep your hands warm on biv. This one is a radio, so this is just an AM FM radio. Again, not necessary, but this is one of my favorite things to bring with me on biv or on AFX, because you're not allowed to bring your phone, but you can still listen to your some music on those, so that's really good. Now I don't have my flashlight with me, but a light of some sort would be good. Because you can obviously find your way at night time. But the most important thing about lights is it needs to have red light capability. So this one would not be good for cadets because it doesn't have a red light feature on it. In terms of knives, this is one of my multi-tools. It's broken at the moment, so you can see there's some hoochie cord stuck in there. But multi-tools, not necessary, but it's got some nice handy things on it, which would be good for outfield. And then, yes, as you've seen, this is that Gerber knife I got, or I showed you before. So it's about $5. Quite a handy thing to bring with you outfield. My eighth tip and trick is the Ceros belt, so I'm going to show you how to put it on, especially on your AMCU uniform. At Army Cadets, we have two different types of uniform at the moment. Unfortunately, we are phasing one of them out, but currently we're sort of in between and using both. The first being DPCU and this one being AMCU. Now, it's important to know the difference because at some events you might be asked to attend in DPCU and some you might be asked to attend in AMCU. So, both of these can be used for ceremonial purposes, which is where you'll be using this belt. Everyone finds it very easy to use DPCU for your Ceros because you can easily fit this belt through the loops on the belt. But when it comes to the AMCU, you'll notice that these loops are a lot smaller compared to the ones on the DPCU. So, if you were to try and put your Ceros belt through, you'll notice it's not going to fit. So, what you have to do is strip all the metal pieces off the Ceros belt so you can fit it through the loops, which I'll show you now. Now I will show you how to put it on the uniform. So, this is your belt that you get issued with your ceremonial uniform. It comes with a few different pieces. First of all, you have the belt itself, which mine here has been stripped. Then you have 4 of these little pieces here. So you have 2 sort of holders, and then you have a male and a female piece. The piece with the bit sticking out is your male piece, which looks like this, and then your female piece, which holds the other piece in there. So I've got rid of all my DPCU stuff, so I have some room to show you. So what you're going to do is you're going to take all the bits of metal off your Ceros belt, like this. It'll only take me a second. Remember how to put it back on, but if you are going to take it apart, just remember you know how to put it back together. So make sure you don't lose any of these. There should always be 4 pieces, so 2 holders, and then a female and a male piece. So make sure you don't lose them. Now you're going to have the belt with nothing on it, and you have your AMCU pants. So to put it through, I will show that now. So front of your pants, you're just going to sort of put it through like this. Now it will be a bit fidgety and a bit hard to get through at some points, but if you just keep trying, you will get them through. So the first few are quite easy to go through. The challenge is when you get to the back of the pants, when the loops for some reason are a bit smaller. So as you can see, you might have to sort of slightly bend this to get it to fit through, but it is possible. So I'll just continue here. Alright, and we are almost around to the other side. I've got one more to go through here. Bang. Okay, now to move this around to the front, so this is the front of the pants, this is the back. You'll notice we still have sort of, might need to pull it a bit to get it a bit straighter. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold on here. I'm going to pull it through. It's much easier when you're wearing it to sort of fix these bits here and there, but that is somewhat acceptable. So what will happen is you'll notice, well, you have these flimsy bits here. So I've done this side, but when we're putting it through this side, just making sure that we slide that on. It's very important to make sure you put the male side on correctly, because if you don't, then you won't be able to do up your belt. So slide them down. Now you have this sort of excess bit, and obviously you can't clip that up like this, because then you have all this stuff in the middle. So what you do is, like normal, you feed it through, okay? You're feeding it through, and then you're making sure those holders are tight. Then you're going to get this bit and tuck it in between the outer belt and then your pants. So that's going right in between in there. Most important part about this process is just so that you look presentable. So, as you can see, we've got it through there. Only took a little bit of fidgeting. That took me about a minute to do, that last bit there. So now you've got them on. I know it might look a bit messy around the edge, but once you've got that tied around, you sometimes need to make sure it's flat. So that's going to sit nice and flat there. Then what you do is you put your pants on, and then you will sort of connect it like I showed you before, and that will sit on really nicely. One of my most important tips is don't leave it till last minute to do this, because it might take a bit longer, especially if it's your first time doing it. So don't sort of go, oh yeah, last minute, I'm just gonna chuck my uniform on. Make sure you have practiced it first of all, and then you're comfortable doing it quickly. And what I do is, if I have, say, 2 ceremonial events in a row, I will take my pants off, but I'll leave the belt on, so it just sort of sits like that, and then I don't have to put the belt through next time I put my pants on. Next, this one is pretty straightforward, but I'll be covering hygiene in the field. So, for hygiene in the field, this is what I use. Some people might use different things, but I have repurposed an old water canteen holder to hold sort of my toiletries and hygiene stuff. So inside of my kit, I have some pretty straightforward items, and I'm missing a few, unfortunately. I don't know where I placed them, but I have 3 main items. So my toothbrush, my toothpaste, so for brushing my teeth in morning and also in night environments, and just a simple sort of deodorant I can use that's easily applicable. Very important for cadets that you do not bring spray-on deodorant or aerosol. It needs to be roll-on or pump. Otherwise, you'll set off fire alarms. It might seem silly, but it has happened. I've witnessed it. It will sort of trigger the alarms to go off, and standing out doing roll call when it's cold is not amazing. Another thing is your water. You always need to make sure you're drinking water. It is important for your hygiene and also for your sort of health. So I'll see if I can find my foot powder. So I was able to find my foot powder, so I'll just go through all the other things that I found in my other hygiene kit. So I got some mozzie repellent or insect repellent, which is very handy outfield, especially when it's mozzie season. I've also got some normal lip balm, which is good. Sometimes you might get a little bit, dry lips or whatever, making sure you're drinking water to sort of prevent that. So here is the Army foot powder I use. I got it from an outdoor store in the city, but it's pretty much similar to baby powder. It's antifungal, so it will take up and make sure you don't have any sort of fungal infections, and it will also absorb any moisture in the field. Here is some basic sunscreen, so I just take that out with me. Most of the time staff will give it to you, but you never know when you might need it, so always good to have sort of backups, as I went into before. I did manage to also find, it's not related to hygiene, but I managed to find my electrical tape. So this is what I use to tape up my kit. And then I've also got this sort of camo tape if I'm trying to be a bit more tactical. But yeah, that's pretty much just some other stuff that's not really super important or relevant to the hygiene. So the final one is blousing your boots, which is sort of to do with your shoes and socks, which I'll show you now. So I'll show you how to blouse your boots now. So what I'll be using is, these are the, as you've seen before, these are the standard issue ones I get for cadets, and these are the standard issue boots you'll be given for cadets. Just while I'm here at my boots, this is important, another tip for you that is very important. You'll see here at the first lace, this lace needs to go under the boot, not over the boot here. So you see I've tucked mine under. You will get called out for that. Not in a bad way, they'll just remind you, hey, get that fixed. But if you show up with that done on your first day, they'll go, wow, look at this. So I'm doing up my boot here. Something very important to note when we are doing up our boots, what you'll do is you'll put the laces through each series of holes. Then you're going to sort of do this to keep it nice and tight. And then what you do, every time you put them through 2, you pull so it stays nice and tight. So I'll show you again. You go through 1, go through 2, and then you're going to pull up, keep that tight. And what that's doing is it's making sure your boot is nice and closed so nothing can get in. So if you're walking through sand or whatever, the sand won't get through your boots. Okay, and then I'll do the last one up here at the top. Okay, just like that. And then what you do is, this is a very important part, you'll tie off like this. Okay, then what you do is you get your sock and you tuck it over the shoelace like this. And then you can tuck the shoelace away so it's not poking out. Then you're going to pull your blousing down like this. And I'll just do a sort of time lapse so I can do it with my other boot quickly. So just before I do the time lapse, I thought I might give you a better view. So as you can see, my shoelaces are tucked under the sock, which I've sort of folded over my shoe. and what that does is it acts as another layer of protection, so any bugs or whatever can't really get into my boot, and also for any sort of terrain like sand. So then once I put this shoe on, I'll show you how to do up your blousing on the two different types of pants you might get. So now we've got both boots tied up and they're at the same level, so I've tucked both my shoelaces under the sock. There's two types of blousing you can do, high and low. So the time that you use high blousing is for ceremonial purposes. So what that means is you're getting the, so you have two types of shoes, or sorry, two types of trousers. Some will have this elastic sort of thing you can pull and make it tight, and some won't, unfortunately. That mostly is on the DPCU, but you never know. So what some people use is a rubber band, and they use the rubber band to sort of hold it on there. But for me, I've got these ones. So what I'll do is for high blousing, I make sure these socks are up as high as they can without the shoelace falling out. Then what I'll do is I will pull this as tight as I can, like this. Then I'll tuck it under, okay, just like that, make sure nothing's loose, okay. And then with your boot, you might need to just stand up, and then you're gonna take all the excess out, okay. And then you notice you have this sort of rough bit at the bottom of your shoe or bottom of your pants. So what you do is you lift up your pants and you tuck it under, like so. So as I said, high blousing is for ceremonial purposes because it looks a lot neater. And then I'll show you what the sort of low blousing looks like in a second. So obviously this is a bit of a rushed version because I'm trying to get this filmed as quickly as I can. But high blousing is where you can see it's a lot higher off the boot. Now on my other foot, I'm going to do low blousing. So low blousing is used for when you're outfield, and essentially stops anything from getting in your shoe. So what I'll do is I'll bring it down as low as I can, so you'll notice the height difference. Okay, so high blousing's up here and the low one is all the way down here. So what I'll do, it's the same process, it's just lower on the boot. So I'll tuck that away, okay, stand up, get all that nice and all the way down there, and I will tuck this away. Just like this. So as I said, this is for outfield. Obviously these are very rushed. If I was to do this properly, I'd make it look a lot more presentable. But as you can see, high blousing is in most cases, that should be maybe up a bit higher. So that's high blousing, and then over here, the low blousing is as low as you can get it, and that stops anything from getting in. So ceremonial purposes and then more outfield use. So I don't have my scrim net with me, so I can't show you how to apply scrim net or cam net, but I will upload a video in the future showing you how to do that. So if you have any questions, pop them in the comment section and I will answer them. Thank you very much for listening. I hope that helped.